Good evening. I'm Mayor Javier Figueroa, and I'm calling this regular meeting of the University Place City Council for Monday, March 3rd, 2025 to order. And we'll have the city clerk do the roll call.
Thank you, Mayor. Councilmember Boykin?
Here.
Councilmember Worthington is excused. Councilmember McCluskey?
I'm here.
Councilmember Fleming is excused. Councilmember Grassi?
Present.
Mayor Pro Tem Wood?
Present.
Mayor Figueroa?
Present.
Mayor, you have a quorum.
Thank you. And Mayor Pro Tem, would you lead us in a Pledge of Allegiance?
Everybody please rise and join me. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem.
Thank you.
Okay, we'll move on to item number 4, approval of the agenda. Calling for a motion to approve the agenda.
So moved.
Second.
Any objection? No? It's approved unanimously. Okay, we'll move on to item number 5, presentations. Well, I think it's really interesting and absolutely great that we have a community where we have the fire district and our police department battling for a very good cause. And I'm not going to go into the details. I could easily do that because as all of us would like to talk about things positively in our community. But we do have someone here from the Red Cross, our Larry Bletch. He's our community volunteer leader for the American Red Cross, Puget Sound, South Puget Sound, and Olympics. So Larry, if you can come up here, and you can, I won't go down there, but Emmy, you have a mic for them? And then you can call whoever you want there with you. Okay.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Council members, I'm very pleased to be here tonight representing the American Red Cross. And this is a night for celebration because we're celebrating the results of the second annual Battle of the Badges, where we pit these wonderful representatives from the police department against West Pierce Fire and Medic. This being the second time that they battled in a very important endeavor, and that is blood donations. And why is that important? The Red Cross supplies 40% of all the nation's blood. That means we need to collect 450 million donations each and every year from 250 million people. That's a lot of blood we need to collect. So how do we do it? We do it through blood drives throughout the country on a daily basis. But we try to spice it up a little bit once in a while, and we do Battle of the Badges. And this particular battle was incredible because it's the first time I can remember it came down to one donation. And while you were the winners last year and had bragging rights, this year I have the pleasure of presenting the trophy to you. Can you come on up and get this trophy? This incredibly expensive trophy is going to you. Deputy Chief, is it Bolts? Bolts. Very good. We collected 35 donations this year, and what does that equate to? That's 100 lives just in this one particular event that were saved as a result of this. What do we want to do with this next year? We want to make it bigger and better than ever before. We're going to change the rules a little bit. We're going to change the date on it next year. We'll probably have it in the spring, so we encourage more people to come out. I would encourage all of you to come out and donate blood. I would encourage all of you to do the same, each and every one of you. The more the merrier. And we can't thank you enough for your support, and we just want to congratulate you and have bragging rights for the rest of the year.
Thank you very much. Appreciate it. On behalf of Chief Sharp and West Pierce Fire and Rescue, we respect and appreciate our relationship with the police department and look forward to next year. I'm going to cut it short. This trophy is getting heavy.
Thank you for allowing us to talk.
Before we move on, blood drives are a critical component. I think most of us, in one way or another, have seen the need for blood of all types in our communities. I know I have personally in so many different aspects of my life where blood was essential for people to live. And so I know that on behalf of the council, myself, and our community, because all this blood goes out to different communities, is thank you for those that participate and those that are here today and did it in a fun way. Really appreciate it. And so with that, I'd like to move on to another fun introduction of our new public safety officers. And our chief, Burke, you're in charge.
All right, thank you. We got a shy group. It's taking them a minute to get up here. All right, then let's. Yep.
So now you know how it feels to get a mugshot, huh? They're not smiling, so I'm not sure.
All right, Mayor Pro Tem, Council, thank you for the opportunity to introduce folks from our team, but also along with that to acknowledge and celebrate the work that they do. This group is such a talented group of professionals, and they serve our community in such a profound way. I'm very proud of this group. I'm grateful that you were able to spend some time with them this evening. And so we'll just have them share their name, what shift they're working. We have swing shift with us tonight. We also have graveyard and day shift represented as well. But they'll share their name, their shift, and how long they've worked for the Sheriff's Office and how long they've been in UP for.
My name is Jacob Yandel. I've been in UP for 5 months now. I've been with the Sheriff's Department for 8 years. What else? I work swing shift.
My name is Ian Carpenter. I work swing shift. Been with the Sheriff's Department for 8 years, and I've spent 2 years here in UP.
My name is Tyler Reed. I work graveyard shift. I've been with the Sheriff's Department for a little over 2.5 years, and I've been with UP for 6 months.
My name is Joseph Mola. I'm currently on swing shift. I've been with the Pierce County Sheriff's Office 7 months now. Been working in UP for 4.5 hours. I'm with Deputy Carpenter, day one of training.
Very nice.
I'm Christopher Coffin. I am currently the investigator in University Place. I've been with the Sheriff's Office for 6 years and been in UP for 4 years.
Brent Johnson. I've been with swing shift, been with the Sheriff's Department for 17 years and in here at UP for 1 year and 2 months.
I'm Greg McClendon. I'm day shift in UP Patrol. I've been with the Sheriff's Office for about 9 years, and the last year of that's been in UP.
My name is Tesla Turner. I've been with the Sheriff's Department for 5 years, University Place for 1 year, and I'm on swing shift patrol.
Ray Reedwin, swing shift sergeant, Sheriff's Department for 17 years, and I got to UP last November.
Sydney Davis, I'm on swing shift. I've been with the Sheriff's Department for 8 years and UP for about 5 months.
Well, before you guys leave, Amanda, does a camera take a picture of our new officers from this angle up? No? So I'd like to say a few comments and allow our council members to say a few comments as well. And then we'll have you turn around because I want our community to see you. This is a very proud moment for our community and for this council. Most of you, I know you're new, but hopefully maybe you were briefed on how you got here. We passed a levy, what was it, 2 years ago? Yeah, 2 years ago. And then last year we went into the mode of hiring and all that kind of stuff, and now you're here. It's been a long process, but before that, we actually went out with a levy twice that failed. Very sad because everybody was saying safety, 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 but yet the taxation and things like that. Finally, it passed. It passed because people wanted public safety. They wanted great officers to come and protect and serve in our community. So I know that our chief, we are very fortunate to have Chief Burke with us, and I know that he has an excellent understanding of what we want in our community as far as law enforcement, and I trust that he picked the best of the bunch, and because you're representing our council. I know you work for Pierce County, but you do represent our council, and you represent our community, and to many aspects following the law. And so I hope that you really do take heart that our citizens are human beings that make mistakes, but they also are very good. They're the ones that pay the bill, that work hard and want this. It's very it's a big deal for us to see you here, finally. And I can go on, but I want you to give each council member just a minute to just say thank you, whatever they want to say, and then have you guys turn around so our community can see you, and we'll bow out of this. Okay? So we'll start with Mayor Pro Tem Wood.
Thank you, Mayor. So one thing I'd like to mention that our community should know, because I've been able to talk to some of you over the last 30 minutes or so, is that we have a lot of special teams represented here as well. I've talked to at least 2 people on SWAT and 1 from Bomb Squad. I'm not sure, and 1 canine, or maybe that was the same. But we have officers in this community who are highly skilled, highly talented, highly trained, and I'm really glad you're here. And then I just want to say thank you, because I know strapping on a vest every day and leaving home, you know, you have a great job and a great opportunity, but it does carry some risk. And I just want to thank you for taking that risk on behalf of the citizens of our community. I really appreciate it. Thank you.
Councilmember McCluskey.
All right, thank you. Well, I am so excited that all of you are here, and all of you are so excited that you're working in University Place. It's a unique city to work in because we stress community-oriented policing, which is what, from my understanding, for the ones that I have talked to, are really excited and interested in doing, so that your calls are going to create more data for you to be a better police officer. You're going to be able to do more investigation on what that call was all about, which would you become a better police officer for UP as well. We have an investigator that is going to augment everything that you do. So hopefully, you know, it's not a revolving door, right? That for what you do on the streets will be so impactful that you don't have to do it over and over and over again, because I'm sure that would be very frustrating. You're in a community where not only each and every one of you has your own back, but each and every one of our citizens will have your back as well, because they reach deep in their pockets reluctantly to pull out the funds to get each and every one of you in University Place. That's a heavy lift. That was a big deal. I respect my citizens, the residents here, for what they did, because safety is first, and it's number one. And each and every one are not just an individual. Each and every one of you are force multipliers that will help our community be better, be safer, be more productive, economically, as well as for our health and well-being. So thank you to each and every one of you for risking your lives for each and every one of us. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilmember Grassi.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I just want to echo everything my colleagues said this evening, and my heartfelt gratitude for each and every one of you, for your families as well. Please express our deepest gratitude to them, to your children. You are representation of our city's top priority, which is safety. And the reason I'm here tonight is because I started by volunteering on the public safety levy as a citizen that really felt that we needed to have you, each and every one of you here. And so I just am so grateful for your leadership, Chief Burke, for Jennifer Hales. Your department is the best of the best, and it is a true honor to have you serve our city. In my home, with my children, each one of you are known as heroes and will ever be. And on our hardest days in a family, it has been public safety officers such as yourself that have been heroes to our family, truly, on our hardest days. And so I know that you have great skill and great talent, and I know that you have great heart as well, and you put all of those things together to bring forth your best for our community, and I just can't thank you enough. And I will always personally have your back as well. And if there's anything that this council can do, that I can do to be a blessing to each one of you, I would love to do so. But, you know, thank you. It is, I cannot overstate what your service means, and that you are a top priority to us, this council, and this city. So thank you so much.
Thank you. We do have one more council member on the screen. He couldn't be here personally, so it's Council Member Frank Boykin. Frank, did you want to say a few words?
Absolutely, Mayor. Thank you so much. And thank you, caregivers, caretakers, and protectors of our residents and our citizens of University Place. We thank you so much in advance for what you do and what you have decided to do every day. And as you move out into community, as you look to make good examples for us and for those that have your back, it is with gratitude that I say I really appreciate you choosing the City of University Place, and excited about Chief Burke and his leadership and what that's going to translate to you as model officers here in the City of University Place. If there's anything that I can ever do, would love to do it, and just excited and appreciative of how it is that you represent our city as we speak and as we stand and as we see you right now. Thank you so much.
Thank you. And as you can see, our council members, which is very much part of this community, and our community seriously do understand who you are, what you do, and they support who you are and what you do for our community. Thank you. With that, I want to have you turn around and just wave at the community, and we'll just applause. Everybody's just applause, and we'll just go from there. Thank you. Thank you, Chief. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you. Thanks for coming. Thanks for coming. Nice to meet you all.
You're welcome. Thank you. Thank you.
Nice to meet you.
Well, that was fun. With that, we have public comments. And we'll go with, is anybody online?
No one online, Mayor.
Okay, so we'll go with anyone here from the public to make comment. We do have someone signed up. Ms. Mason, are you here? Oh, there she is. So would you come up, and you have 3 minutes. State your name. Over here, please. Amy, will you help her out a little bit? And state your name, your address. Naturally, not address, just that you're from University Place. It'd be fine if you are or not. But and state you have 3 minutes. Go.
Thank you. Those of you that know me or don't know me, my name is Leanna Mason.
Can you speak up to the mic?
Yes, I sure can. Thank you. My name is Leanna Mason. My dad, Ed Mason, and family all moved here back in 1985. They lived at that red house across the street from the old Clock Tower Square back in the day. And all my siblings went to Curtis High School. I moved back in 97, and all of my kids went to Curtis High School, so I'm from here, grew up here, from the Fircrest UP area. We've worked with the city quite a bit on different events. I had my own business out of my home. I taught music and loved every minute of it, teaching a lot of the community. But I did have a business. I do have a business called Entertainment Masters. We've worked with many Duck Days and many events with the city. And we did the 11 years we DJ'd the daddy-daughter dance here in the city and loved every minute of it. My girls went to the daddy-daughter dance with my dad, their dad, my ex-husband. I was a single mom raising 4 kids when we moved back here to my family. But for COVID, the dance was shut down, and so we weren't able to do the dance at Curtis with Brittany Bibby. Those of you that remember, she took over that dance at the school. And so myself, my daughters the other day, maybe about a month ago, said, Mom, we need to take our daughters now to the daddy-daughter dance with their dads, and we need to bring this back. And so we'd already been on our mind. We'd talked with Melanie back when we did a daddy-daughter or mother-daughter tea. And if you know Nariana that does the princesses, she wanted to jump in and be on the committee, and so we kind of formed this group that wants to bring that back to the city and partner with you to make sure that we get the word out to our families to stay in UP, have more events here, and bring more activities, mother-son sports nights, the mother-daughter tea, and just do more recreation here in the area. So I've worked with Denise, many events, and then also with Miriam we did all the music for the tree lightings with all of the choirs. We used to run all the music and sound for that. So just want to have your support and your blessing to help us get the word out, bring these events back to the city, and make sure that we can have fun here in our own city. I've worked with Faircrest many times, and as Nariana knows, that those tickets keep selling out with UP residents for the Faircrest events and Pierce County events, so I think we should bring them back here to our city. So just wanted to make sure you were aware of that, and would love to have your stamp of approval and your support. So.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Wow, look at that.
That's it. There's no Q&A. It's just a public comment.
Okay, thank you so much.
You're welcome.
She's got flyers for you too, so you have a copy.
Is there anybody else here as part of the public present that would like to come and address the council? Nobody? Okay, so the public comment section is closed. So we'll move on to the consent agenda, and I need a motion to approve or amend the consent agenda as proposed.
Mayor, I move to approve the consent agenda as proposed.
Second.
Any objection? Seeing none, it passes unanimously. Okay, we'll move on to item number 8, and that's the city manager council comments and reports. And we'll start with the city manager.
Thank you, Mayor, council members. Just a quick update on one of the projects that's very visible to the community. The 67th Avenue Sewer Project, sanitary sewer project, is under construction. And if you drive 67th at all, which most of the community does from time to time, there are some barricades, flaggers, detours at times as the construction is underway. This is a project that council authorized and approved the bid for last summer, and it took a few months to get some things underway, but the contractor mobilized. It's a $2 million state grant funded project that also includes side sewer connections ultimately. But the first order of business is to get the pipe and the manholes in the ground. And there's a lot of digging that's going to go on. And so there's going to be, no one likes construction, but everyone typically likes, and I, as well as all of us, like the end product, which is going to be the finished product when everything's restored, the pavements and the streets are back to normal. And it'll mean a lot. It's the first sewer project for the city in a very long time, and one of many that the council authorized in 2024 to be built in University Place. This project is, I believe, is slated to be completed this summer. So just wanted to give you a heads up as to, it's like, what's all that construction going on? Just real quick, the low end of the project where the sewer line comes down from 27th down to 35th, turns on 35th, and then discharges is going to be the pipe's going to connect to the pump station that was built a number of years ago at 35th on the south side. And then Pierce County will own and maintain that sewer. But also a shout out to our own engineering crew that planned to design this project in-house with our own designers, the construction drawings. So this was including obtaining the grants. So it was a homegrown project and turnkey, and also the engineering crew is doing the inspection. So this is one that's quite unusual. There is no, that I'm aware of, consultant involvement on this one. There might be some small contracts, but Jack and his crew are doing an amazing job and continue to, and we'll see construction wind up again this summer. So that's my report. I have nothing else, Mayor.
Thank you very much. And we'll start with council comments, and if you don't mind, Mayor Pro Tem, we'll start with you and go down the line.
Okay, thank you, Mayor. So last couple of weeks have been actually pretty busy for us. So personally, just the things I've been a part of have been, got to meet with one of our citizens along with Councilmember McCluskey to talk about the Arts Commission. Apparently our meeting generated some public interest and that we've received some comments saying people are very excited about this and this potential opportunity. So it was a great meeting and I was happy to do it. I was invited to represent the city at the Asia Pacific Cultural Center Lunar New Year celebration, which was fantastic. The dancing that was there was incredible. The music, just everybody who is hosted this year by India. And so it's just a great opportunity, great food, great organization, great time to be there. And they were very excited about, so I'll mention it here as well. They have a new cultural center opening up sometime this summer, probably around August, if I recall correctly. And they'll be having an grand opening ceremony for that as well, and I encourage people to come. Several of us on council went down to City Action Days. Councilmember Boykin, Grassi, McCluskey, and myself. We split up our efforts between some of the different sessions, but we all went to talk to our legislators together and advocated on behalf of the city. I thought that was a good opportunity to go out and just see how things are done down in Olympia, and it was enlightening to say the least. So that was a good visit. I did learn a lot, and I do think we were able to speak to our representatives down in Olympia and make some headway on some issues important to UP. Finally, as far as the other last meeting I was part of, we had our first in a very long time joint interagency meeting with the city, and represented there was also the library and the school district. And we had a great discussion talking about ways that we could work together on various issues, whether it's sharing communications, advocating for things that are important to the city as a whole, not just one particular element, whether it's the school district, the library, or us. And it was a good discussion. I look forward to doing this again. I believe we're targeting quarterly now to do this meeting. And I think there could be a lot of benefit from that. And then finally, thank you to city staff for all the work you're doing with the sewers and also the road work on 67th. I drive there every single day. So I'm grateful to see the road work finishing up. But it is really good that it's being done. It looks great on the south end. And the north end where you're doing the sewers is just a great opportunity for our city. So thank you all. That concludes my comments.
Thank you. Councilmember McCluskey.
All right, thank you. Well, I went to the Pierce County Regional Council General Meeting a few weeks ago. At their annual meeting, they had passed their work plan unanimously, and I had forwarded that work plan report to each and every one of you, so you should have already received it. Also in the annual report, there's no budget changes. They are waiting to hear some clarifications from the Department of Commerce, especially in light of House Bill 1110, and also some questions and pathways for the Climate Commitment Act. The There's the Centers for Applications that are now open, and we reviewed the transportation work plan as well. So it was a short meeting, lasted about 30 minutes, and that was the end of the general session. I went to the AWC Action Days, as Mayor Pro Tem indicated. A very enlightening speech by the National League of Cities, Yustel Ors, in the state of what's going on with federal policies currently. And also our Attorney General Nick Brown gave a speech too in light of some of the things federally that has been taking place. So those speakers are very beneficial and enlightening. The UGA homelessness, I was interviewed, and I think each council member will be interviewed as well to get our thoughts on homelessness in University Place in particular. And that's done by the consultant, outside consultant, Bridges, that some ARPA funds are paying for. Art in UP, as Ed mentioned, met with a very interested citizen, and Thursday I will meet with the Up for Art group to talk about different policies, pathways forwards, and then bring it back to council for a report or action. I don't know what the outcome is of that. Part of that will be the how to assign out the piano for people that are interested in playing the piano in the atrium. That's an aspect of that. Did a meeting with the National League of Cities Small Cities Council that Mr. Boykin, Councilmember Boykin, and I are a part of, and trying to figure out to arrive at a plan. Nothing was really finalized or came to fruition. There was about 55 people in the meeting, so it was like herding cats. So maybe when we actually were, the mayor and Councilmember Boykin and I will be traveling to D.C. Through the NLC's Congressional Cities Council to meet with our federal legislators there and also talk about some policies and things that we could collectively work at. And Councilmember Boykin and I will be part of the Small Cities Council. We're meeting on Sunday to talk about a year-long game plan. On Day Island, I was part of the meet and greet with Corey, our community outreach officer. That went really well. I think everyone loves Corey. And Officer, I think Gatwin, he was present, or I believe Officer Gatwin was there with Corey. I can't remember if I got his name correct. And there was a lot of safety questions being asked, and also just what a community outreach officer is. So explaining that was very enlightening to the Day Islanders, and they're excited that they have someone in the community that is not in the police officer role, but someone that can come out and be a little less official, less formal, and being able to resolve some of their issues. I was also at the Asian Pacific Cultural Center's event at the Tacoma Exhibit Hall with India. I've been to India, and some of the dances I did recognize, and they're beautifully choreographed, and the music was wonderful, as was the food. And that's all I have thus far. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you. Councilmember Grassi.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I want to thank our officers again for being here this evening. It was so wonderful to have them a part of our meeting. I think that's a wonderful new tradition. hopefully, and that was great. This last week, I attended the Economic Development Board meeting along with some of our city staff and along with Councilmember Boykin as well, economic development and progress that's happening in Pierce County. So exciting to hear their report. I want to also echo my excitement for Leanna Mason and the daddy-daughter dance coming back to University Place. For those excited to participate, I know the online tickets are available, but encourage our community to be a part of that. Had the honor of traveling to Washington, D.C. just a couple of weeks ago and meeting with our representative, Congresswoman Strickland, and she hosted me at the Capitol. I want to thank her and her staff for their hospitality to me, and also she sent her regards. Thank you to the mayor and our city staff who have kept Day Island on the forefront of our federal priorities. And I also want to thank city staff that prepared me well for that meeting and was able to have great conversation there in her office. And I just want to thank her for the work that she's doing on our behalf. And she has an excellent staff, and it was wonderful to get some time with her as well, communicate our priorities. As mentioned, I also traveled with our council member McCluskey, Councilmember Boykin, and Mayor Pro Tem to AWC. We all did divide and conquer. I think a highlight for me was the speech by our state auditor, Pat McCarthy. And it was such a wonderful experience to sit there and talk about some of the issues that city's facing with their auditing, knowing that our finance department just recently got a wonderful award for our clean audit and all of the work that our finance department does. So I want to thank them as well. That's a lot of heavy lifting, and they get a lot of minutia through and make us look well accounted for, balanced. And so thank you to our Leslie and a wonderful finance department. That was a highlight for me. I also want to thank the team, also Public Works 67th. I know it's growing pains from one end to the other. I too travel that every day. And I just want to thank our community for being patient, but it looks beautiful, the portion that's already done, and we're excited about sewers. So thank you to our team, flaggers and public safety team that's making that manageable. I am looking forward to on Friday, as Councilmember McCluskey mentioned, we'll be participating in the conversation representing University Place regarding homelessness with the county and Common Bridges. It's a new consultant, as you mentioned. They'll be meeting here at the Environmental Services Building. So on Friday, so excited to be a part of that conversation. And as they mentioned to us, we haven't had a voice, University Place hasn't had a voice in this conversation before, our approach to homelessness. So I'm looking forward to that conversation. It takes everyone and thoughtful conversation. So I think with that ends my comments. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you. And Councilmember Boykin.
Thank you, Mayor. It has been mentioned the events that I attended, but I want to be sure that I do make mention of my colleagues who were just, as always, providing additional elevation of those experiences. We get a chance to be a part of any space together, but really enjoyed starting off in Olympia prior to AWC. It was on President's Day, and did some additional advocacy for the city of University Place with our representatives looking to front load what we might be able to do as part of our opportunity that we have with AWC, which also was fantastic. So beginning in Olympia on Monday, and then Lacey on Tuesday and Wednesday with the AWC efforts, and just being part of the advocacy effort that aligned when it came to AWC's legislative priorities to use that as a way to leverage our own. I was excited about that. Also was really appreciative of being part of the let me take a step back. Let me apologize for not being there. A little bit under the weather. I don't think I made that clear, but I really wanted to engage our officers. I think it's absolutely apropos when people have the example and experience of community being with each other, next to each other, engaged and integrated with one another when we're all trying to move toward that common good. And there's no better way to do that than the example we had today at the dais with the officers. So just sorry I couldn't be there, but really appreciative of what I got a chance to witness remotely. And then let me also comment on the daddy-daughter dance. memory. I got a chance to have a first-hand memory of that as well, and it is something that you just never forget. Just really excited about what it's going to look like again in the future, and just really appreciative of that memory being called out for me and my daughter as she graduated from Curtis in 2006. And then want to affirm that the EDB, the Economic Development Board, annual meeting where Michael Cassie, a new CEO for the EDB, was introduced. Really powerful comments, as well as getting a chance to hear County Exec Mello really leverage our partners and move us forward in these very challenging times. Excited about what that looks like as well, given the picture he painted. But I will tell you, the highlight of being away since the last time we had a chance to report out was really getting a chance to witness a ceremony for a gentleman by the name of Jaleel Gamble. He was being celebrated. He was actually being provided as part of the Eagle Scouts Court of Honor, that particular rank. And it is just powerful to be able to witness a young man, particularly a young African-American male, during the month of Black History Month, as he was receiving this leadership award. It is the most prestigious award that can be provided to BSA Scouts, and it was just heartwarming to watch. They underscored the importance of their oath and their commitment to their community, to their church, and in that quiet leadership style that he has, there's just a tremendous expectation of what he'll get a chance to do. So I got the pleasure of hearing the remarks of our Mayor Figueroa as part of the ceremony, but it was just really a wonderful way to see our youth just be celebrated in a very unique way. 4% of the people across the country attained the rank of Eagle Scout, and within that 4%, 1% are African American, and so it just was really exciting to see him excel, achieve, and be celebrated because of it. That concludes my remarks, Mayor.
Thank you. This is for staff, and that is that on the 67th, can you hear me? On the 67th and sidewalks, that's almost completed. Great job. A lot of good comments out there in the community. When I say a lot, I mean probably 10 or 12 people I've run into and actually noticed it and was able to comment, but that's a lot for me. The other thing is that I would like to get an update on that, whether it was on budget and on time. Any project is always interesting how we did. The other one is the sewer projects. I know that I've mentioned it several times, but Congressman Strickland certainly said it to me almost 3 different times. And obviously, when somebody tells you 3 different times they like to be part of a shovel opening, I'd like to do that. So if you can work with me, especially before I leave in our meetings with her in D.C., because I know she's going to ask me. And I don't want to be embarrassed not to tell her that we have an answer. The other thing is there was a citizen, Ms. Mason, addressing us about a particular activity. I'd like to staff to maybe follow up on that and see if that's even legal, anything that needs to be put together and presented to council for consideration. Maybe a study session. We can get to that later, but certainly don't want to ignore it. And I don't think it's appropriate for her to work with council and directly council members to put it together. I think that's staff work. So staff needs to do the work and then bring it to us for consideration and study, or study and consideration. The next is, as we go, I'm speaking to my council members who are going to NLC and those that are active in the AWC, and that is that a lot is disappearing from the federal side with monies, as you've seen. And I think that I know there's a lot of things about climate, monies for climate, funds for climate, funds for housing, funds for homelessness, and it's getting harder and harder with the federal side having less and cutting, and the state being $14 billion short, and they're still trying to figure out how to manage. And we heard it. It's not me saying this, from our state representative, Merritt Levitt, who said, "Don't be asking for money. There isn't any." But one of the things that we haven't talked a lot about that we all can do, and we should tell our peers, and that is as you're understanding the MPOs, like an organization like Puget Sound Regional Council, we should really play a heavy hand in advocating to keep those funds flowing to the MPOs in our country. And because we have been very successful. It helps every city, but we in particularly have not been able, we would have never, our city wouldn't even look close to what it looks like now if it wasn't for those MPO funds. We just wouldn't be there. I think there was like $50 million since 2007. We received $50 million for this infrastructure we see in our cities, our citizens are enjoying. So seriously, we need to educate ourselves what that is and how we can promote it, advocate it at every level with any one of our peers so that they can also talk about it. Okay, so with that, the last thing I do have is the Eagle Scout. Thank you for mentioning that, Councilmember Boykin. And it is a very special, this young man, 18 years old, maybe 17, high school senior, Curtis. It is remarkable for those that don't know much about Eagle Scouts, but it is a rare honor that is bestowed upon a scout. And to have one given that honor to be in your city is even rare. And we should be honored to have one of our citizens. And then on top of that, to be a young man of African descent, because that's even less of a percentage odds that they achieve. I'd like to, Boykin, you'll need your help on this, as you know the family more than I do, is to bring them forward to present an acknowledgement, a certificate from the city for obtaining such honor. I think that's appropriate in our community. And so if you can help me out, Mr. Boykin, with Emmy, our city clerk, I should say, it'll be great.
My pleasure, Mr. Mayor.
You
My
bet.
pleasure.
With that, I'm done, and we'll move on to our study session. So we're done with our general session. We'll move on to our study session. And at this time, Council will have the opportunity to study and discuss business issues with staff. And there will be no public comment. And we'll start with item number 9, Stormwater Management Program 2025 update with staff Jack Eklund, Public Works Director, and Todd Smith, our NPDES Coordinator, and I'll let him explain those initials.
All right, thank you, Mr. Mayor and City Council. As you mentioned, I'm Jack Eklund, Public Works Director, and with me is Todd Smith, our NPDES Coordinator. So, Todd, you're on the hook for the mayor to say your initials, what they are.
National Pollutant Discharge Elimination System.
Thank you.
That's our state, it's a federally mandated stormwater management permit that is administered through the state. So that's what the NPDES program is. But tonight we're bringing to you for study the annual update to the city's stormwater management program, which we are required to develop and implement and annually update this program as a condition of our NPDES permit, municipal stormwater permit. The program itself, it lists the elements that are required under the NPDES permit and identifies the actions and activities to be conducted by the city to meet the permit requirements. The changes in this year's program, we've updated the dates of the public comment period and public hearings. We've had updated any references to, or highlighted any references to milestones or deadlines that have been completed for 20, that are need to be achieved in 25, and also have removed any references that for milestones that have already been accomplished. Another element is we've removed any non-required appendices. Instead of, so it used to be quite a huge document. If people were to download it and view it, it became one of the comments we received is it became a little unwieldy, and so we are now kind of trimming it to what is necessary in the permit and just referencing these external documents, and then those can be separately linked to on our webpage. Other things, the new permit language and requirements, as I've mentioned, are updated for this permit term, and also we've throughout the year we've identified various comments we received for requests for items where we found have been confusing, and so we've updated some of the language to provide more clarification and reduce confusion. And then lastly, the most significant change in this update is the addition of a new section that addresses a state requirement for compliance with underground injection control wells program, also known as a UIC well. A UIC well is a underground infiltration system that's designed to infiltrate stormwater. It's more commonly referred to as like a dry well, or that's the most common application of it, at least. And so state law requires us to have a program to both manage these wells and register them with the state. And then the Department of Ecology recommends that we, in order to document and confirm our compliance with this state law, that we incorporate it into our stormwater management program. So it's not specifically a requirement or FBS permit, but it's strongly encouraged as the most effective way to document that. So the overall elements of the stormwater program, there are 12 now. They are stormwater planning, public education and outreach, public involvement and participation, mapping and documentation, illicit discharge detection and elimination, controlling runoff from developments, stormwater management for existing and existing developments, source control programs for existing development, operation and maintenance, monitoring, reporting and record keeping, and then finally the new section of compliance with underground injection control wells. The complete stormwater program is included in your council packet, as well as a memo that summarizes each of the program elements. And then finally, I'd like to invite the public to view the draft 2025 Stormwater Management Program on our website at www.cityofup.com. And the public comments can be submitted to Todd Smith either via email or phone call, and his contact information is also noted on our stormwater management page of our website. Public comment period is open through March 17th, and the public's also invited to participate in the March 17th public hearing that will be held on that evening's council meeting to provide additional comments. This concludes our report, and we'd be happy to answer questions you may have.
I'll start with, I saw your hand up first.
No, she was first.
Oh, she was, okay.
I was pointing at her.
Oh, you were pointing at her, okay. So, Councilmember McCluskey.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you for all this hard work that you have done, not only to put together the update, but also for the past performances and work that you have done. It's not an easy task, but it's an extremely important one for, our environmental health and well-being, as I like to say. My first question is the stormwater management program, for the public outreach. What are they for the 2025?
For the 25?
I know you're partnering with different agencies, but, for the record, what are they?
Well, we're going to do the webinar series, Natural Yard Care Again. We've got three great speakers lined up. We're just finalizing the dates, but it's in April, and a flyer should be coming out. We'll have it out as usual on our webpage and in our city newsletter. Our general awareness programs, we are using there's a big push right now for the pollutants coming off a tire tread, and so my general awareness for right now is for 18 and up adults, car drivers. We've been doing, started it a couple years ago, but we just keep getting farther and farther into it. We do a bunch of news shots, social media shots. We do multilingual, and we run that through Puget Sound Starts Here, under Puget Sound Starts Here month. I think this year it was called Don't Wait to Inflate, and really pushed that and had some good numbers, and it drives people to the Puget Sound website as well as to our own stormwater website and things you can do to make a positive impact. So that's our general awareness. And then we have, we work with Pierce Conservation District. They've helped out with helping train park stewards who are going pretty well now. They've been gone for a while, but we got them back at Adriana Hess Wetland Park, and they do a lot of work around the wetland there and taking out non-natives, and it's really nice to get them back. What else do I have? I have what else do we got? Anyways, there'll be a bunch of other stuff on the website.
All right.
I do want to add just note that Todd's been doing an amazing job just in this coordination with and developing this partnership with the health department for those natural yard care workshops that we do. Those are what's been our attendance? It's very highly attended for this type of like an online workshop that we have a series. How many are there again?
There's 3. We have anywhere from 30 to, I think we've had 70, 78, 79 people participate. We do it with the Pierce County Health Department, helps put that on. They get the speakers, moderate the meetings. So it's been very popular. We seem to get some really good speakers.
And if anyone has the opportunity if you have the time to see those and join it, they are worth the watch. They're very, very informative and entertaining too. So I like to put a plug in for that. So.
Okay, yeah, I've had the great opportunity to be an attendee at some of those too, and I concur. They are very informative and entertaining, enlightening, and very thoughtful. And I hopefully changes behaviors for the better. Now, we had an in-house, you had a consultant that did research for an assessment for the monitoring and assessment piece. It was Landell, so I was wondering how much did that cost, and did they do any analysis other than the cost savings?
So the monitoring and assessment element, that is, we're part of a regional, we pay into a regional group. So it's a overall assessment that's actually organized by the state as part of their NPDES program. We can either opt in or and it's quite a bit more cost effective to do the joint assessment. Do you have that dollar amount? It's like I think it's about it's about 20,000. It's like 8,000 for one and 13 for the one is the assessment, one's the monitoring. And so that also gives you a little bigger bang for the buck because they can look at regional wide impacts. And so, although I haven't seen a recent report on it, so I don't have any good information, but it is at least in the past, it's been a pretty effective program.
Okay. So they did more than just say, yeah, go with the outside, go with the regional approach. So they gave us a lot more data and information for the $20,000.
We have access to it, yeah.
Okay.
It depends on the given year how much they're doing in our area versus other locations. And so I haven't reviewed what was done the past year yet, but it varies.
Okay. So my final question is about the source control. What is the progressive enforcement plan for, and also for the source control, are you interested in just isolating the contaminant just on site so that it doesn't have the opportunity to run off? I just want a little more clarification on that.
So I'll address the progressive enforcement plan first, and I'll turn the nitty-gritty stuff down to Todd. But so for our progressive enforcement, that is a requirement of our permit to have a progressive enforcement plan. What we do, our policy is we will first, if we identify a problem, we'll informally meet with the property owner, give them instruction of the problem we noticed, give them kind of educational materials on how they need to address it. We then will follow up with them in a subsequent inspection just to verify whether they've been, complying. And to date, almost everybody has followed those requirements. So we haven't had to take the next step, which would be, we have in our code the ability to impose monetary penalties to folks. I think starting as low as $500 or $50? $500?
I think it's $500.
$500, and it could go all the way up to $10,000 a day. So depending on the egregiousness of it and the lack of responsiveness, it could be quite severe. But fortunately, we haven't had to do that. So we definitely, our goal is compliance, not penalizing, right? And so that's really been our emphasis. And the more we can do through education, we feel we're all ahead that way.
Yeah, absolutely.
So the source control is really just business inspections.
Okay.
The state's laid out a bunch of businesses that have the potential to pollute. And so I go through the list. I have a city list based off business licenses and what they've filed, the kind of business they are. They have to file certain numbers. And I go through that list, and I've pared it down to just over, I think, 280 or so. And I've been going through picking off about 20% a year. And like you said, most of the people want to comply. This is kind of new. We're just starting our third year of it. My whole approach has been education outreach. You're not supposed to, when I show up, I don't want them running and slamming the doors and worried about what I'm going to write them up for. I just want to come in and share information about what they ought to do. The whole idea is to keep the pollutants from getting into our storm system. And so for most businesses that are they're indoor buildings, and it's more of spill containment, good housekeeping, mainly around the dumpsters, which is some other of my behavior change program with my education outreach. We're working on those with dumpsters, keeping the lids closed, keep the litter in and the water out. And so it's been really well received. Come in, and if they're non-compliant, we just visit with them. We have a little talk. I send them some extra information on how to become compliant, and then we schedule a time for me to come back at a later time. So it's been working out really well. I think I have about 78, maybe 80 some left to do for this year, this coming year in 25, and then that should get me about ready to redo a new list and start picking up new businesses. So it's a great program.
All right. Well, thank you.
Good.
Thanks.
Councilmember Grassi.
I'm just looking at you admiringly, Mayor. That wasn't a need for comment.
Well,
Thank you.
I appreciate the respect. Councilmember Boykin. I can't see, but I do see, but I wasn't sure if you have a comment or not. Or
I do not, Mayor. Thank you.
okay, so I have a couple comments, and you know, are we going to study the pollutants out of bicycle rubber tires? Just kidding. Just kidding. Maybe it goes down to the shoes of people walking with rubber shoes. I don't know. Okay.
Keep it inflated.
Okay. I just wonder how far this goes.
Yeah.
And at some point, I think it's ridiculous. I see the importance, and makes a city better and safer and aesthetically looking better. But I think at some point, I hope that this stops how far down it goes. That being said, because the main reason is because there's a lot of tax. This is one of the biggest taxes around, and for our city. And it has to be for a real value that pays back to the community. It shouldn't just be, let's check everything out. And at some point, the cities like ourselves are going to have to stand up to that and lobby against it. Okay. With that, I don't have any other comments, and I think we're good. Oh, I do have. What is it that you're trying to get from the council? What's the end result here? Resolution? Are we going to pass this? Would you express what that means to us?
So we're coming back on March 17th with public hearing, and then it'd be an adoption through a resolution on this one. And so we'll have the resolution just adopting. We have to annually adopt it each year. So.
Okay, so it's a resolution you're seeking.
Yep.
And when is that coming to us after this today?
Yeah, March 17th.
17th, excuse me.
Yep.
Okay, and they'll be part of the public hearing as well, right?
That's correct.
Okay. Just as a side note, when staff does this, if we can put on the agenda what's the end game here, like in this case, resolution, so we know as a council ahead of time what we're looking at. Okay. I'm good, so thank you.
Mayor?
Yes.
I was on your list.
You
I kept
were?
reminding you that I was on your list.
Well, you passed on to her.
I did not pass my.
I know you did.
You need to look.
I only had one follow-up.
Mayor Pro Tem Wood, you have the floor.
Much appreciated. So most of my questions were answered because I was actually had a question about source control inspection program as well. The only question that wasn't answered is about how much of your time or staff time is spent in doing the inspection program.
Inspections take anywhere between 20 minutes to 45 minutes, just kind of depending on the business, how big they are, how good a tour I get from the business owner, how much I find, how much we need to talk afterwards. Some go pretty quick, some go quick because I just need to come back at another time with some more information and see if they can work with me a little bit. And other times it's really quick. Go through it, fill out a checklist, maybe 15 to 20 minutes. So, and I've been doing maybe 4 or 5 in a day, and then I go on and I do my other duties and kind of work through that. And we've had some part-time staff come in and do that for me last summer as well. So, yeah, for a timeline, it's just I think we did 46 businesses last year, and I guess you could say maybe at the minimum 20 minutes a piece. So.
And then there's time with follow-up and
follow-up,
so depending on what the nature of the findings are.
So if I was to just hazard a guess, 5% of FTE, 10% of an FTE is devoted to inspections. Just curious.
I'd say probably 10 to 15%, maybe.
Okay, thank you. Much appreciated. That's all, Mayor.
Good. That prompted me to some additional questions. So when you mentioned, well, that's what part of a study session, right?
Yep.
If you had a perfect mayor, it would be really boring up here. Okay. I know. So the 79 folks that showed up at this, well, there's 3-part question here. One is, whenever you do educational classes, do you always partner up with other players? Always.
Always?
Well, at least our current ones that we have in our program, the natural yard care, we've been doing a partner with Health Department, and then there are, depending on the year, there are other jurisdictions sometimes partner.
Pretty much
Edgewood, I think.
Your educational classes that you mentioned is all partnered up. You don't do just a UP one, right?
Not currently.
Okay.
We have.
I'm not talking about the past. I'm talking about now.
This year we don't have any plan.
Okay. So, and when you do, where do you normally hold them? And the third part of this is, do you do a head count? How many UP residents attend?
So they're all done virtually now. So it's an online class. We do not get I don't think we get any kind of statistics of where the folks are come.
No, because it's made up of both municipalities that participate as well as county health department. It's advertised everywhere, so I don't believe we get a breakdown of exactly how many are from UP. But
if you can, it could be interesting, because all this is supposed to be for us to educate UP residents, and if they're not getting educated, then we're not doing our job. We're just helping somebody else do their job.
Yeah.
So
we get a survey at the end from the health department. Does a follow-up survey at the end to see.
We can ask them.
That's
we can add that where they're from.
So they should say, and we need to have a count. I think that's important, because if it was 0 and 0 and 0, and we're contributing X amount to help somebody else, I mean, then there's not a value for our citizens and our taxes that we pay into this. So I think it's important. Or you can, at the end as a survey, or I know that some of these online things you can ask people to put as their name, but maybe not even their name, but the city they're from. They can put UP. Oh, there's all the UP guys, or not. But one or the other, a way to identify how many UP folks are attending, because we're contributing thousands of dollars. And it should be for UP. We're not collecting taxes to educate other jurisdiction citizens. I mean, it's good that we leverage that, but if nobody's attending from UP, then I have a different.
I can request that for sure.
Okay.
And just as one kind of, at least an indicator would be in the past, prior to doing these remotely, we did used to hold them in person at University Place. And when we had in-person those classes, our attendance was usually between 15 and 30. And so now we're getting between 30 and 80. We're probably, UP residents are probably somewhere, 50 to 40% of the crowd, based on at least past experience.
Okay. Can you tell from the conversation or questions that are being asked whether they're UP people or not?
Sometimes, but it's hard to tell. Usually they're more garden specific or whatever the topic is, but just occasionally you can.
Good enough.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you so much. Any other questions?
That's good
comments?
I'm good.
No? Okay, we're good. Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Eklund.
Thank you.
Okay, well, they're leaving the area. Well, actually, maybe not. We have item number 10, Parks Reservation System report by our Public Works Director, Jack Eklund. And we have a guest.
Also, with me is also our Deputy Public Works Director for Operations, Deborah Kelly-Smith.
That was.
Why did I say that? I know. Okay, it's not that late for me to be making these kind of mistakes. I do know the names. All right, so thank you, Mr. Mayor and City Council. So tonight, the clicker, okay. We have bringing to you for study, our first study, a study we've done on picnic shelter rentals, and also we have some information on field rental studies as well, where we have looked at, gone out, and we've compared what some of our neighboring jurisdictions are doing relative to field and picnic shelter rentals. Did you have a...
Yeah, I did, Mr. Eklund. Just because, for me at least, how I listen to a report would depend whether I'm going to be listening for a resolution or another kind of action, or is it just a report? So it would be nice to know what's the end game here.
Sure. So the intent of this is giving you what our findings are when we've gone out and kind of surveyed our neighboring jurisdictions. At the end of the report, we will, we're kind of showing you some of the comparisons, but then we will be asking for feedback from council on what the next steps of additional things you would like to see us bring forward, because our assumption is that there would want to be, in a subsequent study session, a recommendation from staff. But
would it be a resolution? What is it at the end?
So at the end, some of that's going to be up to council, because it could be you don't do anything. It could be
okay.
So right now, this is a report of our fact finding, and then we at the end of this session, we want to get feedback from council on what steps you would like to see us move forward.
That's helpful. Thank you.
All right. So, we for our study, we did look at 12 of our neighboring jurisdictions. We looked at Lakewood, Fircrest, Steilacoom, Puyallup, Gig Harbor, Sumner, Fife, Auburn, Kent, Parks Tacoma, which is what has formerly been called Metro Parks, so which was an education for me, because it's hard for me to change that, but and then Pierce County and Penn Met, which is the Gig Harbor Parks group. So in our evaluation, we looked at what things are costing for rentals, are permits required, insurance requirements, do they have damage deposits, do they restrict rental times or availability, what kind of staffing is needed or used by folks, and are they implementing or utilizing an online reservation system. So to kind of give context to what the study is, I want to go over what we do currently do for park and shelter reservations, or the shelter reservations. So currently our process is to reserve a park shelter, picnic shelter. You need to do a special event permit. This permit cost is $274 for special events up to 300. And honestly, we don't. For a shelter rental, you're not going to get over 300 because our shelters aren't that big. So, so 274 of that, 130 goes to basically a rental fee, and $144 is the permit cost itself, which includes not only staff review but also fire marshal review of things. So we do have like I mentioned, this is a special event permit. We do require insurance as part of it, as recommended by WCIA. We do not implement damage deposits. We currently do not restrict any rental times. We do it year-round, and it's available anytime a park is open. And then for our staffing, we do have park staffing available between 7 and 3:30 year-round, Monday through Friday. Starting in May and lasting through September, we do add Saturday availability for park staffing when we start bringing in seasonal folks from 7 to 3:30. And then in the peak months of June through August, we do also have park staffing on Sundays from 7 to 3:30. And we do not currently have an online reservation system. What we found when we surveyed our neighbors, that you can see shelter rentals vary in range and cost between $25 up to $625. And most 8 of the 12 agencies do charge different rates for residents as compared to non-residents for rentals of their shelters. Now the challenge is it is difficult to do apples to apples with these, because many of the neighboring jurisdictions has a wide kind of menu of choices of how they develop their fees. So you could have, based on how many people you have there, are you serving food? Do you have amplified music? Do you have what's the purpose of the event? Is it, as I mentioned, resident, non-resident? So it goes through quite a wide variety. So what we've done here, just to kind of give a general idea of how we compare is we have two examples. One is like a 20-person birthday party, and one's going to be a larger, like a 15-person gathering. So in the 20-person birthday party example, we found that we are generally near the top of the range for costs. So it ranges, these are the, I'm not listing all of them here, but this gives you the range of that kind of average, where Puyallup is around $50. We have a bulk of folks who are near $100. Lakewood's like $125. And as I mentioned, our process is $274. Although I would note that if we were just to look at, if we were to remove a special event permit from that and just look at our facility usage fee, it would be at about $130. So we would be comparable to what Lakewood charges right now from that standpoint. For the 50-person party example, the costs go up for our neighbors, primarily because most of them would also, at that level, trigger a special event permit. But then also, a lot of them also have larger shelters. So some of them, on the previous example, we used their smaller one. If you could do a 25, we found the cheapest one, basically. So they do have bigger shelters for the bigger parties too. So this ranges between $115 and up to $625, and then we are at $274. So we're kind of around the middle there from what we've surveyed. So I guess just general, it appears from a cost standpoint we are probably a little high on, if people want to do a small party, we're generally right in the, probably price-wise about right for a large type of party, or large to medium, I guess, depending on what they're looking at. So in what we looked at, so most of the agencies, 11 of the 12, do require a special event permit in conjunction with, or have the potential to require a special event permit in conjunction with the rental if it triggers a certain size. Most of the size is around 50, like our trigger for special events, if you're not renting a shelter, is 50. Although we have seen some of the agencies have a smaller threshold of 20 and 30 have been, those are the other two levels we've noticed. And then also for insurance, 11 of the 12 agencies also requires insurance, whether it's a permit or not. If it's just renting a shelter, almost all of them do require the insurance. One thing that I'd like to point out is, because we've had a lot of questions on this in the past, is so through AWC there is a set, what's that? WCIA, I'm sorry. WCIA, there is a set insurance that folks can access. And it's a fairly simple process. So it's called GatherGuard. It's an online insurance that we provide folks the link to this. But basically, you can see on this entry screen, you say what type of event or rental you're doing. You click on that, and it, because we're part of WCIA, all of our facilities are already in there, so people can enter. Let's say in this example, it was Cirque Park for a birthday party, and then it's $75 is what the insurance rate would cost. And actually, we tried it for a larger wedding, and it's also $75. So I'm not sure what it would be for when it would trigger something more, but the majority of it is that gives you $1 million insurance with even $250,000 protection of if they damage our facilities. But so now they're not required to do this type of insurance. They also may have the option to go through their own homeowner insurance or something else, which may be less than that. But at least for folks that don't know how to go there, it's a very simple process to be able to get this insurance that's needed. And I think about half of the folks that do permits probably use the GatherGuard, and half use separate insurance for the rental, the shelter rentals that we have. So damage deposits are the other thing we looked at. So 9 out of the 12 agencies do require damage deposits. Most are fully refundable. The benefits of it are it helps give you, proper use of facility. It helps keep your facility clean. You can indicate that if you're renting, you need to remove your garbage and so forth. The drawback is it does require staffing verification. So we'd have to have someone right there, right before they start and right after the event ends, because that's the only way you'll be able to say you made a mess, not whoever happened to be there between you and when we could get there, right? So from what we can tell, the reason, that impact is mitigated by many folks with, I think, my next screen, yes, is rental times availability. So many of the agencies, especially ones that do the damage deposits that are refundable, have only seasonal availability for the rentals. So of them, we've seen 5 of the 12 agencies have year-round availability, but 6 of the 12 only allow it to be part of the year, and primarily in the peak hours. So they don't rent them in the winter. Some start in April, some start in May, and most all of them end around October, right? Yeah. Which is probably linked, from what we can tell, it's linked to when they have availability for that additional staffing and to kind of focus those staff resources for after-hours stuff. Some of them have partial day rentals that are allowed, but very few. And what I've listed here is if it's partial day, that then they let someone else rent it for the other part of the day. So only 4 of the 12 agencies that we surveyed allow more than one rental per day. And so, we also can appreciate, because I know one of the challenges we had when we had, lack of a better word, easier or more streamlined rental system, is we used to allow 2 rentals a day. But then it became a little tricky, and depending on how messy the one rental had, to get it ready and for the next rental, and then often there was a bit of an enforcement issue between, okay, your time's up, you're out of here, and we need to get the other people. So it does look, now there are more of the agencies that do allow you to have a smaller time block during a day, which may reduce the rate of what they charge, but they don't rent. Like they say, okay, you can rent this for 2 hours on Sunday, but then they don't rent it to somebody else later in the day. Now, most of the agencies do have online calendars that do show the availability. So 8 of the 12 agencies do that. And then also many of the agencies vary their rental availability by the facility itself. So, let's say if we did it, maybe we would have a higher availability at Cirque Park, but maybe restrict the times more at Kobayashi, for example. But that's what we see around other parks, where it may be their major parks are more available and their smaller community ones have limited availability. One thing, staffing. We did notice that 9 of the 12 agencies, though most of them do have weekend staffing during rental periods. However, some of those agencies only provide it at the beginning of the day. And some of that links again to the damage deposits, refundable versus non-refundable. So if you don't have a refundable damage deposit, a lot of those agencies just make sure it's clean at the beginning of the day, and then probably you're cleaning it at the next morning. I do want to say, for us, when we have, with whether it's our previous system or our current one, we do typically like to have someone there to clean it, both be there at the beginning and sometime near the end of the day, just because if you don't get trash removed and so forth, it actually causes more work the next day, because usually animals or something else might make even a bigger mess and pull the stuff out. So we would advise still maintaining that before and after kind of party, unless you have something very late in the day. So online reservation systems. So right now we're seeing about half of the agencies have online reservation systems. And those are Metro Parks, oops, I haven't updated this slide, Parks Tacoma, sorry, Pierce County, Penn Met, Puyallup, Fife, and Stilcombe. We have looked at that. The, what is Civic?
Civic Plus.
Civic Plus is the program that seems to be most utilized by jurisdictions kind of similar to us. And so that's one that our IT folks have been looking into. Unfortunately, I don't have a good, it's one of those, any kind of these computer programs, they're very, they want to hook you in as a customer before they give you any pricing. But typically, I would anticipate it may be somewhere in the six figures for buying of an online system, and then probably $10,000 to $20,000 a year for annual maintenance fee. That's a typical thing, but it varies between how many rentals you're having and how big your system is. And so if council is interested in pursuing that, we can get a little further along with some of these agencies, but that at least is the ballpark of what we'd be looking at for cost-wise.
I know for Civic Plus, it was a base fee plus a percentage of their transactions. And so for like $1 million transaction, it was $27,000 that they had to pay to them. So that's kind of...
For the annual one.
For the annual, yeah. The annuals.
We don't anticipate $1 million for our, but yeah. So that's it's but we can find out more if that's an interest of council. So shifting from park rentals, I guess one last thing I want to mention on our current park rental system is we currently now get about 9 park shelters under our special event permit. We usually get about 9 rentals a year for our park shelters. So, and when we had more of a straight shelter rental, we probably were renting it most weekends.
I would say yes.
Probably so.
We do also allow
in the summer
people to just come and use a first come first serve basis. Yeah. This rental system is only if you want to have definite time you're going to be there and you don't want to take the chance. But if you're under 30 guests, you're free to use our shelters anytime they're not being reserved. So,
and that is also consistent with many of the other jurisdictions we've seen. Most of them also allow a first come first serve. In fact, the city of Sumner exclusively is first come first serve. They're the only one that we surveyed that doesn't rent it no matter what, not even under a permit. And Gig Harbor only does one of their parks as rental, and the rest are first come first serve. Anyway, so that's just the scope of the magnitude of what we're seeing. Field rentals. So this gives a summary. The highlights of some of the field rental rates around. The range of what you see of these rentals is a little bit depending on resident, non-resident rates, and also youth versus adult rates. So like, for example, the UP rate for our baseball and softball field rental is $45 to $65 an hour, and we give a $10 an hour discount for residents and a $10 discount for youth. So if you're a resident, if it's for resident youth, it's $20 cheaper than non-resident adult, if that makes sense. And that's where you see in some of these other places have similar variations. So we are, so Fife at the low end is around $23 an hour, and then Puyallup is around $50 an hour, Puyallup and Lakewood, for their baseball fields. And then we're at our lower is $45. Multi-purpose field ranges from 23 with Fife up to 70 with Puyallup, and our low end is $35. And then the tournaments rates you see the lowest on those are $130 at Pierce County, and Metro or Parks Tacoma is about $1,800 a day. So the tournament rates vary quite a bit between the different, and we are at $325 to $425 depending on youth and adult tournaments. And then I also have here shown the range for our for what you charge if you're going to do field lighting during your event. We're at $15 an hour, and you see, actually, we are the cheapest one for that. A lot of those are $25 or $30 an hour. But in general, our field rates, if you go at least by indication of how popular our fields in the summer and spring are almost completely rented for every weekend certainly in the summer, and about half of them in the spring, and about half of the weekends in the fall. So it's pretty highly utilized. I know last year, even by the fall, we were getting a little bit ragged on some of our multi-use field especially, so we had to do a little bit of a restoration. But I feel in general we're kind of right in the mix and have the right pricing for our field rentals. That is a pure rental system, though. You don't need a special event permit to rent a field unless you have an event that's over 50 people. So with that, I want to turn it back over to council to see if you have any questions and if there's other things you would like us to look at in moving forward.
Anybody wants to go first?
I can go first.
Okay. Councilmember McCluskey.
Okay, thank you. Well, the whole end goal here is to mitigate some of behavior control through the reservation system. I see that the online software program that's targeted is way out of the spectrum for our program shelters. We have very limited program shelters. Off the top of my head, I think we have 4. There's one at Adrienne Hess, Kobayashi, Sunset, Cert Park, and then soon to be at Homestead. Right?
It's we don't rent anything at Adrienne Hess. It would be at Cirque, Kobayashi, Sunset Terrace, and although we haven't seen anything for a while, theoretically at Curran, the band shell.
Yeah, that's true, Curran. So why not Adrienne Hess? Is it because of the Audubon? Whatever their name now?
Yep.
Yeah.
So our
do they have an exclusive agreement that's not to be utilized?
So
is it the bird sanctuary?
Yeah, so we can use it for city purposes. We have the right in our lease with Audubon, but there's not a specific ability for us to rent that, other than I guess we rent it to them, but it's not much of a rent. The house. I don't think they have it's just the meeting room. Yeah. But anyway, so that's what our current lease is with them.
Have you looked at any other software program besides Civic Plus? Because their prices seem to be pretty astronomical for a simple reservation system that I'm sure has been around for a while. It's not new software. And we'll look at all of I know our IT folks have looked at a handful of other ones as well. And like I said, the ballpark pricing is what we've seen typically for any of these reservation systems. We don't have specific pricing for what ours would be yet, just because they never want to give you it's like going to feels a little bit like calling up a car dealer and say, how much will you really give me this car for? No one will tell you. They need you there to test drive the car and do all this stuff and try to hook you in. But we can take those next steps if that's the direction council would like, and see if we can get them dialed in a little bit more. Right now we're focusing on which of these programs were the most user-friendly and had the best experience by the neighbors, our neighbors that are using them. Yeah, user-friendly is extremely important to make it. That would be also, as I talked to Councilmember Fleming, and that was one of the things he pointed out as well. It needs to be user-friendly. I do like the differentiates between the small birthday party versus the larger event. The smaller birthday parties, are not as typically problematic as the larger events. And I do like that the reservation system based on not so much the food, but the noise level that it occurs with the music or what they're doing, and also some behavior control so that the infrastructure isn't hurt. Or down in Kobayashi, where the salmon restoration project was damaging, from some of the larger groups that are currently, has been compromised down there as well. I also like the limiting of the time frame. Maybe not 2 hours. 2 hours, once you get going and everything and the people gathering, maybe the possibility of, 2 events, especially in our peak season. I do like looking at the peak season. I'm not sure, and, Miss Kelly Sage would have a idea on some of the calls that are coming through during the off season, whether they're used a lot to make it really worthy to have extra staffing involved, or even doing the rental system, but for sure during the peak time of the year. I know that the one in Central Park, the trigger for a permit is at 20 down there, and then there's other criteria that are involved in that one, because they've had some problematic behaviors there that they're trying to control, especially with trash and the overuse, and also people just camping out all day long and no one else can use it. So more of that turnover that's reasonable, and also to keep in mind the staffing cost, looking at that, because I think we have to be of reasonable mind, and if staffing cost gets too much, and there's too much having to come back and forth to check and look, or maybe we need to re-look on the reservation system and the time allotted that we rent. And so possibly a report back indicating, here's our call-ins that, you say, it's first come, first serve, looking at that and seeing what is the level of interest currently, and then sort of gauging the cost and effectiveness if we were to do the descriptions between the two-party systems, the larger party and the birthday party, and how we can control some of the obtrusive behaviors that we've had noted and we've received citizen complaints of.
That's interesting too when you mentioned that they, about the special event permit based on a location. So that could be a way to address some of the concerns like at Kobayashi, which is more problematic because of the parking and the isolated thing. Mm-hmm. That's something we can look into if you could have a different trigger at that park versus other ones.
Right, yeah.
So that's something we'll definitely look into. That's
Search Park with the noise and the gatherings.
Yeah.
And I would also like to encourage in the reservation system and the signing of the postage that we discourage people from camping out at one program shelter all day long, and so no one else can use it, even on a first come, first served basis. So if you do come on, let's say, first come, first served basis, say, we would like that after 3 hours, it's time for you to clean up. Something like that. Anyway, I'm just looking at managing that piece so that, more people can benefit from our parks during the on season, when we have the staffing and also a component, whether we go online or not, something in place to get to the end goal of making sure that our parks and their infrastructure, the program shelter, are being properly taken care of, and behavior is being managed better than it has been in the past.
It's an interesting thing too on the maximum time, whether it's first come, first serve, or as you mentioned, it makes me think of even on the reservation itself. that could be, we limit, someone can't do an 8-hour reservation day because we want to still make it available for other folks, so that also could be a justification for limiting a rental reservation too, depending on that or something. So that's an interesting thing. We'll definitely bring that back with more information too.
All right, thank you.
Okay, Councilmember Wood.
Thank you, Mayor. So lots of questions and things that came across my mind while we were doing this. In no particular order, but starting with the cost, as Councilmember McCluskey mentioned, I was doing a little back of the iPhone math right now. So bear with me on this one, but if this is a 6-figure initial starting cost, plus say $20,000 a year in that ballpark, and I made some assumptions. A 6-month period when this would be used, focused on the weekends, 5 places that might be using this reservation system. For the first year at $100,000, you're looking at $384 per park per day for weekend days, if you're only looking at weekend days. That's really expensive for the city to, especially on something that we're going to make like $274 on. I know we're not a profit business here and we don't want to be, but that's still, to me, ridiculously expensive. And even at the $20,000 a year follow-on cost, you're still looking at $76 per event per weekend day. It's a lot. And so I'm hoping that we can find slightly better alternatives in there somewhere along the way. So that was just again, back to the iPhone math. I like the idea of different levels of permitting depending on the park. And actually, I wasn't thinking of that. I was thinking of just flex pricing based on the park. I'm assuming Kobayashi has higher environmental standards or concerns that we have to deal with because of its proximity to the creek. And maybe there's something that we could look at there to encourage, or restrictions we would put in place to encourage only the certain kinds of parties there or events there, so that we don't have, beer bottles floating down the creek or something. Things like that. And then, let me see here. The other thing I would look at is, in the hopes that we someday may have some form of recreation program. If we get there, it would be, and I bring this up because I was just on Pierce County's website signing up for an event that they're doing at a different place. Their sign-up program allows for signing up for recreational events sponsored by the city, or in this case, the county. If we do get a program, it'd be really nice if it was expandable to not just renting a shelter, but say event sign-up for the times we want, if we get to that point.
Okay.
So this would be a consideration I would look for. And I think that includes my comments. Thank you.
Councilmember Grassi.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Thank you for your work on this and all of the variables. I, too, have a lot of questions. Some of the same concerns have been already shared. The cost, of course, seems astronomical for us for that one reference that we have. I know as we're working with Recreation and talking about partnering with Faircrest and others, have there been conversations or ideas about how we could possibly share a system that a neighboring jurisdiction already has when we have just a few shelters? Could that be something that we add on to our partnership with Faircrest, that we could share that cost with them since they already have a robust, efficient system? Maybe that's something at least we could explore. Also, resident pricing, I'm definitely for, having that as a benefit. The concerns that I've heard from residents in regards to, shelter usage has been the amplified music, going past quiet hours, which I'm not sure if we have established strong quiet hours, and alcohol usage. When we're looking at permits, I like the idea also of specific permits for different spaces, but I also think there should be permit cost considerations when there is going to be alcohol served. Are we going to allow alcohol at certain hours, certain times? I think especially shelters so adjacent to playgrounds at Sunset, for instance, there should be some thought put into that piece as well. And the amplified music, if you are planning on having, so that I think also could play into the permit. I'm mostly concerned, to be honest with you, about our enforcement of of sizes. It's nice to fill out a form and say a 20-person birthday party or a 300-person event, but there's no way currently to enforce if I have 20 people sign up for 20 people and I have 60 show up. When you say that, it's hard. Are we going to have someone out there counting how many people? The events that I have observed last summer, Cirque and others, were astronomical in size. I mean, hundreds, I'm not exaggerating, of people. And so to say a small birthday party, a large event, I mean, that's just really hard to quantify, I think. So not that I want to penalize the mom that's trying to set up a birthday party for her 8-year-old, but at the same time, is that going to really have 25 people, or are you going to show up and there's going to be 50? I don't know if that's really a likely scenario we should put on size, or if there should be more of a flat rate, because unless we're going to enforce that, and past peak hours, when we have staffing until 3:30, I agree, staffing, that those costs, are crucial, but I think that it is worth looking at later hours for staffing in peak times. It seems that, especially when you have an outdoor event, people want to go later. They want to start at 4 o'clock for a barbecue and go till 9 o'clock or 10 o'clock. And that's mostly when we get our complaints as well. So it might be worth us looking at those staffing hours later, at least in the peak times. And I think that's all of the thoughts I have. But I just want to say, I think this is a crucial thing to have, for the betterment of our community, citizens, everyone that uses our parks. Obviously, they're a highlight for our citizens. The best way we can, control this would be great. But I do think there's got to be a more cost-effective way than that. And I know that you haven't even only been able to do limited research, but yeah, those are my thoughts. Thank you so much for your efforts. Thank you.
Councilmember Boykin, do you have any comments?
I do, Mayor. I wanted to pick up on where Councilmember Grassi has held space for really the reinforcement of how we could look at accountability. I think that's huge. When we talk about the expectation of what the parks are supposed to do, it's got a big FUN running through the middle of it. And if we talk about really the nature of how people want to enjoy those parks, it typically is, as we have later days, they want to stay out and enjoy it. And if we have no real way of enforcement, it's a challenge. And then if we look at what that means, we start leaning into the area of enforcement first, and we're really trying to ensure that we balance that with the fun that people want to enjoy in our park. So it is an absolute conundrum in my view, as we just talk about how we want to really address, ironically, a pricing model. I think the thing that I thought was ironic about the comments that I heard was that we really only have a pricing model that we presume may be reasonable based upon what we interpret as usage being reasonable, meaning that the occupancy rate is high enough that we weren't concerned about whether or not it was being used. But beyond that, the presumption is because we built it and they're coming, it must be competitive. And so in that regard, I think we've got a lot of work to do to find out what it is that a good price model might be for the residents and citizens of University Place, and how to best ensure that we look at different ways to partner to talk about the things that might make a reasonable price model effective. And that does mean looking at the hours. It does mean looking at how we would enforce people who, with the best of intentions, say they've got 20 and they actually have 600. And we also want to be sure that we keep it lean in the way in which people enjoy the City of University Place for the parks and the recreational spaces we can offer. So I'm glad this is an informational scenario for us to provide some direction about what we like to see. But for me, I'm just curious about finding more answers so that we can be confident about what we might put in place, everything from the fundamentals of a pricing model to an experience that we really would suggest our residents would enjoy and keep coming back and keep coming back and keep coming back. In the best case scenario, we found partners across our neighborhoods that might very well share costs, as Councilmember Grassi alluded to, as well as a way where we can provide a more elevated experience for everybody.
We're good? Councilmember Boykin?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
We have Mayor Pro Tem that has one more comment. So, Mayor Pro Tem?
Thank you, Mayor. Yeah, just one thing I did not mention before is well, Councilmember Grassi raised some excellent points about how do you enforce a size difference kind of thing. I still like the idea of it. No idea how to answer her question because she raises a very valid question. But I really don't want to penalize somebody who wants to have a 20-person birthday party, you know, and I would like our parks to be accessible to as many of our citizens as possible. And having a small get-together, I would like that to not necessarily require an event permit. You know, rent a shelter, but maybe not the event permit kind of thing, and have a 35 or 50-person pack, you know, personnel cap or something like that. Again, enforcement would be an issue. But I do like the idea of that because I would like to make it more accessible.
One thing I was thinking as you guys were talking about the different, you know, enforcement and that sort of thing, and this is something I'll need to look into, but it occurred to me that possibly you could tie, you have to change the name of it, but basically like a damage deposit, maybe that's also some sort of, you know, if you're not complying with our the rental conditions or the you know, so basically that could be forfeiture of this refundable deposit. So then at least gives a park employee, you know, they can just say, well, you know, you can do that, but you're not getting your $100 back or whatever it is, right? But that's something we can look into. That might be a tool that could help. I know my finance people will or our finance folks won't be crazy about issuing refunds for refundable things because that's an extra amount of work that, so that's also something I have to look into, but that's a possibility at least.
I like that thought. Thank you. That's all I have, Mayor.
Thank you. I'm going to go ahead and speak now. So that was my kind of answer to that, and that is the damage deposit. I think there should be one, period. We should not be responsible for garbage or damage of any kind and try to get it back. We should collect a damage deposit. Yeah. And number one. Number two, I believe that the number, you know, when you say 20, it's such a finite number. That's kind of impossible. We don't live in a perfect world. So, you know, it should be, you know, 20 with a 5% either way. And part of that deposit, you don't have to have somebody there the whole time, but to have a, what do they call it when they just pop in and check. But somebody, you know, should be able to go in there, pop in and check and do kind of a count and say, okay, you're within 5% or whatever it is, 10%, and maybe 10%. And if it's over that, then they talk to the lead person there and let them know and give them a little notice saying that your deposit will be reviewed for the overage, okay? So I think those things can be put into place, but we need to do that. But I don't think it should be 20 on the line because I don't know who throws a party that doesn't know the extra person is going to arrive. It's just impossible. That being said, I believe that anything like this that benefits our community, but it should all be pay as you go. We should not be subsidizing and getting into the business of subsidizing. We get into trouble. Every city gets into trouble of subsidizing and trying to pull it back because all of a sudden we don't have the money. We experienced that. So again, it has to be pay as you go. We should not subsidize a dime for this recreation. We pass how many taxation and fees because we said our roads need, and we don't ever have enough money for roads or other things, public safety, that the CPI is higher than our what we get in taxes that will support that. So we can't be whining on one end and then say we're going to subsidize fun. That doesn't work very well. So it has to be pay as you go. Whatever we implement, we should obviously implement programs, reservation system, whatever that can be affordable. Sure, there's $1 million system out there, but it's not affordable. So it should be affordable. And if there isn't anything that's affordable to keep the price down, then we go to something that just makes it happen. But it should be affordable. It should be self-paid. It should have deposits, and then as far as I'm thinking that, and as far as that includes staff time, I think that the staff should be there. That's required. That would be required. And if the cost is there's a cost, figure it in and charge it. That's what it is. I'm kind of curious. I do have a question for you, and that is, why didn't it not go to Parks Commission for some kind of a study, recommendations on this?
So what, originally this was questions that came from council that asked us to bring this to council. The Park Commission does have, I think on our next step of before we come with, recommendations, because it is something that the Park Commission did note in their desire for something to evaluate as well, is rental systems. It probably, the next step makes sense to, if it's council's desire, that we could certainly get Park Commission's opinion, kind of partner that with our, before we provide recommendations. At some point, they definitely should weigh in on it.
Okay, so council, the process that we approved is that if we want to have a commission study and bring back recommendations, is to give a directive through a resolution for them to study X. I mean, that's the process we all approved. And so I think that if I really believe that we should, I mean, that's what we have them there for. And I'm one that we should give it back to the commission. This is nice, and I think it's nice because we can provide some information to staff to kind of start and give some brainstorming thoughts to the commission to get going. But we've heard how many commissioners talk from different commissions say, well, you're not utilizing this. And, what are we here for? And then, I don't know, if I was on the Parks Commission and I heard this is going on and you guys didn't ask me, I would be kind of, dang. I wouldn't like it, actually. So do unto others as you want it to be done to you. So I think that I recommend, and maybe I can be outvoted, but I recommend it goes to the Parks Commission through a resolution with some details about the directive. That's another what feedback I'm given, and also if whether it does or doesn't, certainly a public survey on I think, what do we use, a monkey survey, or what is it that we normally use for
Survey Monkey?
Huh?
Survey Monkey?
Yeah, okay. And so I think certainly now that we have some idea of some real questions, we certainly would like to ask our public, I would, is do the survey, and public survey, and say, get some key questions and see what they say about some of this. And I think that's all I have for my comments.
Mayor,
So
I think our city attorney just pulled up the Parks Commission plan. I'm guessing that's what you're doing over there?
You can see what...
I'm guessing. Is it already in their plan this year to look at?
It's already in their plan. Work plan item descriptions, item number 7, overall assessment of current practice and ways to assess an online park facility rental system. So it's there.
Okay, so it's
you passed that at the beginning of this year.
So it's already a directive.
Yeah.
Okay, so great. So now you get to give them some feedback. Okay, so that's answered. We do have another council member, I think, McCluskey, that you had, and Grassi. So McCluskey.
Well, you asked a couple of my questions and a couple of my comments, so I don't have anything. Thank you,
Okay.
Mayor.
And just real quick, I do agree with a lot of the points that my council members made. So if you're looking to nods about what direction, because the direction is really important, I think that some of the nods I heard were kind of banking at each other. So Councilmember Grassi.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. As the resident pastor, I want to thank you for your reference to Scripture, do unto others. That was very nice for you to wrap in there into your comments. I know. Thank you. I'm glad I've made an impact. But I did think that it was on the work plan. So that was my question because I thought I remembered that. And I'm grateful that, and I do agree with that process. I would say, just one voice, it is March. And I would love for us to see some movement as we get into peak season. I don't know what timeline we're on or what's feasible, but talking to residents that were very agitated last year and the year before, and so whatever we can do to speed up the process and make us ready for our peak season, if we can get something going, something would be great. So that's all I have to say about that. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
May I make a comment?
Yes.
Our reservation system, when people use it, I think work well. It's the ones that aren't using the system and just show up is where the issue is. It's the ones not playing by the rules and just coming and using our park as their backyard, I guess.
Right.
Disrespectful as far as trash, and so I don't really think that our reservation system is broken. I think we need to develop something to do in the instances where these people come that are not renting the park, that are just coming in and taking it over, I think is actually the issue.
Yes, I agree.
And that's probably more of a direction that people should think about rather than, how to fix the system that I've been in the park system the whole time I've been here, and it's going on 23 years. We've rented shelters. We've done, first come, first served. We're doing a hybrid now. No one ever complains no matter what we do. And the people that are there for the right reasons obey and cause no problems. It's the people that aren't following the rules or, they just come and take over. That's the issue that I think we need to address.
So on that note, it's more of a law enforcement. I mean, it's not for the commission or council to because it's an enforcement issue. It's just like what do you have the person that goes out for those that for compliance, right? We have somebody go out there in compliance. It's not it's just because somebody's misbehaving, they don't come to council and say, what are you going to do about it? You already have a compliance officer to go out there and deal with it. So I think that, is the administration, in my mind, that needs to figure out how to have a compliance process. And if there is something you need from the council, come with recommendations about how to deal with the compliance process if you don't have the means to do it. I know we let the levy buy bring on board a liaison, community liaison officer. Why can't that focus more on that during those high times?
I think we need a policy because right now there's nothing to limit the amount of time that a person can be there.
Right.
And that's what Councilmember McCluskey was mentioning.
Right.
And I think that was an excellent idea.
So we do that.
Yeah.
Signage for one.
And like she said, I think there could be some good way to have some additional signage to help, at least help staff or enforcement personnel be able to point to something. Because that's also a challenge. You have the people that'll say, I don't believe you. What do you mean? Show me that I can't do such and such, and so that's the thing we'll have to shore up a bit too.
And tell us what is it that we need to pass that you can put on that sign and says, this is the hours or whatever for reservation, violation or whatever, RCW, whatever, city resolution that, you would be fined if you don't vacate. So now that person has the ability to find them, actually find them and say, here. And if they run away, you take up the license and, Matt will go after them.
And that would be, and that may be that may be something we have to come to council with for a code revision if we wanted to change that, or even tweak what the rules are. So
Okay.
that certainly we can also look at those.
So I think that's a key component. For what I heard from your staff and from council here is I think that's a key component that you need to bring together for us to pass. So you have that ability to, or someone has ability to approach somebody with some teeth and give them a fine. And if not, they can call, if he gets angry, he or she or whatever. That's why we have public safety officers. I mean, we have a process. Now, if we have gaps, let's fill them.
Yeah, I think the biggest one is I don't think we have currently ability to find bad actors, so to speak, in the parks.
And that part, I don't think it needs to go to the commission. I think that's something that you bring from administration. Says I need.
Yeah, that would be code, park code.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
I'm hearing a lot of nods and yeses here. So, do you have enough direction?
Yes, we do. This is very, very helpful for us. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Anyone else?
I wasn't sure if Councilmember Boykin was trying to say something.
I'm looking at him, and I don't see him waving at me. So, Councilman Boykin, do you have any last remarks?
Yes, Mr. Mayor. I did wave, and then I decided to let it go because I saw us beginning to embrace the idea about, again, enforcement. It keeps coming back in a number of different ways, and how it had been interjected by additional staff just now didn't seem necessarily to be part of how we interpreted how it could be making an impact as we would go forward. For example, the issue being enforcement generally, where people may see this as an extension of their backyard, hadn't been something I thought was part of our discussion initially. And if we've got that actor in and of itself, that's not part of the consideration that I had heard as I had listened to our dialogue today. So I just appreciate that there is at least a focus on enforcement, whether it's a compliance issue, and how we might be able to provide some substance to additional support to ensure, again, that we've got a really great experience that people can anticipate in having. I wonder, though, if that gets at Council Member Grassi's concern about the expectation of trying to get into, as our peak season unfolds, people being comfortable that they've got a better way forward. And so I don't know how those two marry up, but if I juxtapose them, I'm not sure that that enforcement issue was the big concern about whether or not people were going to be able to enjoy this season of as we move into its peak. So just food for thought in that regard.
Councilmember McCluskey.
Yes, thank you for that poignant reminder that that's how all of this reservation systems was triggered, because of the bad behavior in our parks, and also the alignment with the numbers of people that we should allow at certain sensitive parks like Kobayashi, and the limiting the amount of time so that you can have the turnover of usage. I think with code, or especially if we pass the code, and definitely a signage is definitely needed, so that when an officer comes on to, remind, or maybe has to trespass the partiers, that they're able to do that, and they can just point to the sign and read, and hopefully they'll understand that they're in violation. And I think we need to think hard whether we allow alcohol use at our park. I think that elicits a little more bad behavior as well. I would probably not be in favor of that, especially if an officer has to come and do code enforcement. If they are partaking in alcohol, they're going to be harder to move on. And so I would have that as a consideration going up to our park commission for them to consider that. Thank you.
Just one last remark on that too, and that is, you're thinking about, how much can we to make it enforceable, or at least know that we're serious. And that is, having cameras. Some kind of I'm simplifying it, but I have Ring, and I can, because I'm thinking you have more than one party in different parks, and you have one person maybe assigned, instead of him trying to figure out where to go and travel and all that and dealing with it. They can just sit in an office, or even from their home. They work from home, and you monitor that. And you have a problem, go there. But you can monitor a lot of places through cameras by switching back and forth, or having more than and you can actually put on the sign, surveillance for code enforcement, and that way people know they're being watched, and for code enforcement, and somebody can actually, whatever that may be, look at all the different areas that a party is going and be really efficient. So something to think about.
Good idea.
Okay. Any more? Going once, two, three? Okay, we're done. And thank you so much. And with this, I think that we are adjourned for this study session. Okay. All right.
Until St. Patty's Day.
Bye, Councilmember Boykin. Well wishes to you,
Bye-bye,
sir.
everybody. Have a good evening.
Yep.